Rebirth+Shuangwen+Face to-face love Brain+CEO+Sweet Pet+Occasional Sensation+Frequent Sandcarving, Xu was reborn, the day before Xu's mother set fire. As Xu Qin's half-sister, she expressed that she and the Meng family are unique and beautiful, so please don't get involved with Xu Qin. In the previous life, my parents were bullied by Song Yan and stabbed in the back by Xu Qin, which broke my heart. In a new life, Xu she said. I take good care of my parents, I am a sticker. Red heart a small cotton jacket. Xu Qin is in love with his brain, loves porridge, likes gangsters, and respects and blesses him. Xu Qin is her love brain, Xu she is her white wealth and beauty, shopping, eating, brushing black cards, slapping oily men and cheap women. By the way, she will guide Meng Yanchen, the unjust seed who is trapped in love. In this life, she will definitely not let her brother repeat the same mistakes. Even if it's cheaper for oneself, it won't be cheaper for Xu Qin, the white-eyed wolf king. Xu she said. I raise the banner for Yan Chen and see who dares to be his enemy. Chapter 1. Rebirth. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The flames are raging, and thick smoke is rolling. Xu Qi struggled to crawl towards Fu Weiniang, who had fainted on the sofa, due to lack of oxygen, chest tightness, and dizziness. Mom, wake up. Mom, don't be afraid, I'll take you out. A black figure rushed in. I vaguely heard Song Yan's voice, and then Fu Weiniang was carried out. Great Mom has been saved amidst the raging flames, Xu Qi struggled to breathe and his throat fell silent. The scorching heat wave made her struggle to climb 2 or 3 meters forward, causing extensive peeling of her skin against the ground. Before losing consciousness, a tall figure broke through the flames and picked her up. Xu Qi vaguely caught a glimpse of a string of numbers. X000119. The next second, a huge explosion burst out, and Xu Qi was tightly hugged by someone, exploding at the same time. 2 tiny figures were instantly devoured by the fire dragon. Mom and Dad, brother, I'm sorry, in the next life, Xu Tianda, what's your relationship with that woman? You. Did you sleep with that slut? Tell me. Xu Tianda, I'm so sorry about that. Are you going to treat me like this? Qin is so big, you still can't change your dog and eat shit. You're messing around outside. I'm so blind that I married you. As soon as Xu Qi opened his eyes, he heard a series of angry insults. What's going on? She was burned to death, wasn't she? Is this in the underworld? Long live to see, there is still a chance in this life to hear Chen Hong scold Xu Tianda. But soon, Xu Qi realized that she was not dead. Because she saw a miniature version of Xu Qin standing expressionless at the door, holding a rabbit doll in her hand. Xu Qi's scalp is tingling. Isn't that rabbit the dirty doll that Fu Weiniang threw away on the day of adoption? Xu Qi suddenly realized something and rushed to the bathroom. A childish and youthful face was reflected in the mirror, with messy hair and a yellowish complexion, with a distinct palm print on each side of the face. She is reborn. And it was also reborn the day before Xu Qin's mother Chen Hong set fire. Xu Qi remembers very clearly that in the previous life, Chen Hong caught Xu Tianda cheating and went crazy at home. She just said, the cycle of heaven brings retribution. He was slapped by Chen Hong, grabbed his hair, and beaten for over an hour. It wasn't until Xu Tianda entered that Chen Hong let her go and aimed the cannon fire at Xu Tianda, who had returned from sneaking in. That's right, Chen Hong is her stepmother. She and Xu Qin are half-sisters. Xu Qin is even 2 years older than her. He, she won't say anything about the ingredients. You ruthless bastard. Do you deserve to be a father? I'll treat you with all my heart and lungs. You raise a mistress. Xu Tianda, why don't you go to die? Go to die. Go to die. The roaring and falling outside the house grew louder and louder, and Xu knew that Chen Hong was setting off firecrackers with pots and pans again. Xu Tianda cursed her as a shrew. If you want to die, hurry up and don't go crazy here. In a sense, Xu Tianda is indeed a prophet. Tomorrow, no, tonight, Chen Hong will fulfill his wish, light a fire in Xu's house, and send the whole family to the west. Xu really tied Q. Your family should stay away from me, okay? They were fighting outside, and Xu was not idle inside. She packed her things and sat quietly by the bed waiting. Xu Qin remained expressionless from beginning to end, neither in pain nor fear, like a numb robot, as if the people arguing outside had nothing to do with her. After the war ended, Xu carried his backpack and went out. As he passed by the living room, Xu Tianda leaned against the door with a gloomy expression and smoked. Chen Hong lay on the floor with disheveled hair and disheveled clothes, staring blankly at the ceiling. Xu knew that she would be holding back a big move. Neither of them inquired about Xu whereabouts, nor even glanced at him, as if she was just air. Xu walked out the door and looked at this home that had lived for 8 years. The home that once belonged to her briefly, now the family of 3 of Chen Hong, Xu Qin, and Xu Tianda, with a peaceful heart. In her previous life, she almost died in this great fire, with scars on her thighs and back that were difficult to heal for life. This time, she must escape the fiery sea of the Xu family and appear intact in front of her father, mother, and brother. The lives and deaths of Chen Hong and Xu Qin have nothing to do with her. As for Xu Tianda, from the moment he attacked Chen Hong and angered his mother to death, she had no father. Don't blame her for being ruthless. Their family is also considered reunited. Xu skillfully rang the doorbell of his good friend Xiaoyishui's house. Summer's mother looked at the scars on her face, feeling clear in her heart, and painfully pulled her into the door. Xia's mother went to pack ice cubes, Xia's father went to get anti-swelling medicine, and Xiaoyishui's brother brought 4 large bags of snacks. Xiaoyishui cursed Chen Hong for not being human and for maliciously harming Snow White with her stepmother. Xu was deeply moved. The Xia family was one of the few people who treated her well and was the only warm light in her life before the age of 8. She didn't really want to trouble her parents, but she thought that after tonight, she would be sent to the welfare home, so she wanted to come and see them. One more thing, she needs an alibi. Although the police will eventually determine that Chen Hong committed suicide by arson, she does not want to bother to prove herself in front of the police where she was on the night of the crime. She doesn't want to get involved in anything about the Xu family. Xu played at Xia's house all afternoon, had dinner, watched TV for a while, and was about to go to bed, but still didn't hear anything outside. Is it possible that Chen Hong and Xu Tianda have reconciled and she doesn't plan to set fire to the house anymore? Xu thought this way and fell into a dreamland in a daze. Xu dreamed of Meng Yanchen from the previous life, carefully and devoutly holding Xu Qin in his arms. Song Yan frowned and walked over, jumping up and punching Meng Yanchen in the face. Xu cried and hugged Meng Yanchen, brother, don't want her. She will hurt you. She is with you, and she will always be good to your brother. The space rotated and changed, and a white spiritual hall flashed. Xu saw his black and white photo placed in the center of the spiritual hall. She heard hoarse and desolate cries, tears streaming down her face as she searched for the 3 decadent figures ahead. She saw Meng Yanchen with crimson eyes, a haggard expression, and a light blue stubble around his chin, as if his soul had been drained. In Xu's impression, Meng Yanchen has always been an elegant gentleman and a calm and rational figure. She has never seen such an embarrassed and awkward brother before. She saw Meng Huijin and Fu Weining, who were over 10 years old, with graying temples, sunken eyes, and withered faces, crying and shedding tears. Cece, my Cece. Mom hurts so much, she can't save you. Fu Weining still tightly held her favorite princess crystal ball in her hand. That was her first year at the Meng family, and Fu Weining gave her a birthday gift. For a whole day, she dared not think about the Meng family. She couldn't bear to imagine the sadness and heartache of her parents and brother sending the black-haired person away after her death. Xu was awakened by someone's shaking. As soon as she got up, Xia's mother tightly hugged her. Xu's tears flowed into her hair. My poor child. Cici, your parents passed away, Xia's mother said with a face full of sorrow, hesitating to speak. Chapter 2. Adoption. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chenhong and Xu Tianda have died. Xu Qin survived. Xu was not surprised by this ending. She and Xu Qin were sent to a welfare home together. Here, Xu Qin is not popular. Because she ignores people, always holding a dirty doll and daydreaming alone, which is out of place with children of the same age. Slowly, no one wanted to talk to her. The psychological teacher at the welfare home said that she suffered from emotional disorders due to the death of both parents and being stimulated. She just smiled and thought that the psychological teacher was a person with high emotional intelligence. People like her with low emotional intelligence can only say that white-eyed wolf syndrome is on the horizon. It's time for adoption soon. She knew that Fu Weining loved cleanliness and had made sufficient preparations the night before, looking forward to reuniting with her parents. The next morning, she wore a lovely fried dough twists braid, wore a beautiful cotton skirt and shiny shoes, and came out smiling. On the other hand, Xu Qin, holding a dirty doll and rubbing himself dirty, with loose hair and a guarded face, stood in the distance watching. Seeing the face that he was pondering day and night, Xu's eyes were filled with tears and his heart was filled with joy. He wished he could rush over and hug his parents immediately. But she held back hard and couldn't make them think she was strange. She pretended to be surprised and afraid of being unfamiliar for the first time, and walked over to reach out her little hand and tug at Wen Ying's hem. Auntie, uncle, are you here to pick me up and go home? Her soft, cute and pitiful appearance melted both Fu Weining and Meng Huijin's hearts. Yeah, kids, we're your dad's good friends. He asked us to pick you up and bring you home. Meng Huijin squatted down and showed a standard fatherly smile that he had practiced countless times in the car, trying to appear approachable. Child, what's your name? She looked at Meng Huijin's stiff and formulaic smile, feeling both heartbroken and warm in his heart. Uncle, my name is Xu. There are 4 small dots of bright Xi. Just call me Xi. Xu extended 4 little fingers and smiled. Meng Huijin smiled and said, your name is Cici, so this child is her sister Xu Qin. Cici, Qin, are you willing to go home with your uncle and aunt? I do. Xu smiled brightly, even raising his small hand. Seeing that Meng Huijin was momentarily stunned, she shyly grabbed her little braid and said, what Cici wants, Cici likes uncles and aunts. Meng Huijin smiled and touched her head, waving to Xu Qin. Xu Qin took a few steps forward and stopped half an arm in front of him, neither close nor distant. Meng Huijin and Fu Weining silently exchanged a glance. Fu Weining politely smiled and said, Qin is silent. He just agreed to go home with his uncle and aunt. Xu Qin remained silent, and Fu Weining and Meng Huijin took it for granted. From now on, this will be your brother, Meng Yanchen. Fu Weining introduced a young man wearing glasses to the two of them. Meng Yanchen silently watched the two from the beginning, reaching out his hand and possessing the embryonic form of a little gentleman. Hello, my name is Meng Yanchen, Qin, Xi. Welcome home. Xu Qin remained silent and nervously grabbed the burnt rabbit's ear with his small hand. The atmosphere is somewhat awkward. Great, I have a brother. Brother, I'll tell you quietly, you look a bit handsome. Xu happily circled around Meng Yanchen, wrapping his big hands in 2 small hands. Thank you, Cici is also very beautiful and lovely. Meng Yanchen's face was a bit hot, and he reached out to pinch her baby fat. Meng Yanchen has always envied Xiao for having a soft and cute younger sister, and now he also has two younger sisters. Qin, auntie likes to be clean. This one is too dirty and has bacteria. Children should pay attention to hygiene and love cleanliness. Don't do it anymore. Xu Qin reached out to grab it, but instinctively released his hand when he saw Fu Weiniang's slightly disdainful gaze. Watching the doll being thrown into the trash can by Fu Weiniang, she felt a pang of sadness in her heart, but dared not show any sadness or dissatisfaction. She could only silently roll her eyes in her heart. Meng Yanchen took out a handful of candy and evenly distributed half to Xu Qin. Xu Qin was still immersed in the sadness of losing the doll and did not reach out to pick it up. Xu felt that she was both flirtatious and narrow-minded, a broken doll that would be remembered for a lifetime. Love to eat, don't roll. The eye-catching package shows you off. Cici loves to eat candy, so give it to Cici. Thank you, brother. Xu stuffed all the candy into his small pocket. Then he peeled off one and tiptoed up to give it to Fu Weiniang. Sugar is sweet, for auntie to eat, he said. Fu Weiniang didn't like to eat these sweet and greasy candies, but looking at the little girl's pleasing and devout face, she still bent down and bit it. Well, it's very sweet, thank you Cici. Xu hit the snake with the stick and immediately reached out his hand, hug. Although Xu, who was almost 30, also felt a bit nauseous. But don't worry, she's just a precious girl who loves to stick with her mother. Fu Weiniang was stunned and didn't know what to do for a moment. Be good, big brother. Meng Yanchen saw Fu Weiniang's confusion and helplessness, and took the initiative to reach out and carry Xu onto the car. Xu. It's so shy. Along the way, Xu happily rubbed against Meng Yanchen's side and told him about the interesting events that happened in the welfare home. She didn't have the anxiety and confusion of her previous life, because she knew that the destination of the car was her home. Xu Qin kept pursing his mouth and nervously clasping his fingers. After arriving home, the nanny took the dirty Xu Qin to change clothes. Xu pretended to be visiting the Meng family for the first time and curiously looked around, revisiting the old place in the traces of time. Meng Huijin and Fu Weiniang are talking on the balcony. His original intention was to settle Xu Qin and Xu in the Meng family as adopted daughters, but he was also worried about touching the pain of losing their parents. Just as they were discussing how to speak politely, a small hand tugged at Fu Weiniang's sleeve. She lowered her head and saw a small person hiding behind Meng Yanchen, asking in a timid tone, "Auntie, uncle, can I call you mom and dad?" Xu took a sniff, tears hanging from the corners of his eyes, and said, "The children living in welfare homes don't have parents, they are orphans. My sister said that if their parents die, they will never be seen again. I will never have no parents anymore." Hot tears dripped on the back of Fu Weiniang's hand and also into her heart. Xu wiped away the tear stains on Fu Weiniang's hands with his sleeve and whimpered, "My mother said that a spoiled child is not an orphan. I am very well behaved, and I will listen to you. When I grow up, I will earn a lot of money for you to spend, buy a big house for you to live in, and buy delicious snacks for you to eat. So, uncle and aunt, can you be my parents?" Fu Weiniang and Meng Huijin exchanged a glance, both seeing their emotions and heartache in each other's eyes. "Good child, stop crying. Uncle and aunt will be your parents in the future." Fu Weiniang squatted down and wiped away her tears with a handkerchief. Meng Yanchen also softly coaxed, "And brother will also protect Cici, and Qin, brother will buy you many beautiful princess dresses and big castles, okay?" Xu Qin stood aside, unable to say anything, but looked at the little crying bag crying again, feeling a little annoyed in his heart. "Little cry bag," Xu sweetly called out to his parents, not forgetting the senior social anxiety of kind-hearted Xu Qin. "Sister, I'm so happy. Because we have parents now. And brother, today is my happiest day." Sister, hurry up and call my parents and brother. They are so kind, they said they want to buy a big castle for Cici. He, Fu Weiniang, Meng Huijin, Meng Yanchen looked at her with hopeful and encouraging eyes. As expected by Xu Qin walked away very coldly. Chapter 3. Song Yen. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Time flies. Xu Qi's cultural score in the middle school entrance examination was poor. With his artistic talents and the support of the Meng family, he successfully entered the best high school in the city and was in the same class as Xu Qin. Xu Qi actually doesn't want to go to school with Xu Qin, but Fu Weiniang said that Xu Qin has a solitary personality and doesn't have many friends. She asked her to spend more time with Xu Qin. She didn't want to make it difficult for her parents to do, so she had to put on some sister's affectionate drama several times a month. On this day, the driver took a leave, and Xu Qi and Xu Qin walked home together. It is said to be a company, but there is a Chu River and Han border in the middle, not disturbing each other. Until that group of thugs stopped Xu Qin. Xu Qin is you, right? I have a crush on you. Xu Qi was embarrassed and used his toes to dig out a 3-bedroom living room. He's here, he's coming with a second language quote. At this time, Song Yen had not yet been equipped with the filters of the firefighters, making jokes, smoking, drinking, and fighting. He was just an ignorant and inexperienced young man. Xu Qin didn't speak. The hooligans cheered and coaxed, while Song Yen pretended to scold a few words, lifted his leg to block Xu Qin's way out, inserted his pocket and touched his chin with a wicked smile, and approached confidently, saying, "My name is Song Yen, it's your man." A shred of Q silk rice. Is this not appropriate for harassment? Normal people would only feel offended, right? It was here in the previous life, and Xu Qi felt ashamed and sternly rebuked these thugs. But this time she didn't mind her own business. Xu Qin and Song Yen were born together, and any external obstacles would transform into their motivation to be together. From the first encounter, their vicious love will split at a vicious speed, crazily traveling around the world, and then equally killing everyone. In order to avoid being injured to death, Xu Qi pretended not to see it and quickened his pace back home. "Dad, Mom, brother, I'm back." Xu Qi smiled and changed his shoes as he entered the room. Meng Yanchen took her backpack and placed it on the sofa. "Cici, why did you come back so early today?" "I was just about to go pick you up," he said. Xu Qi smiled and said, "Brother, you're too slow." Qin, why didn't we come back together?" Fu Weiniang asked in confusion. "She walked slowly while chatting with her friends, and I missed my mother, so I ran home quickly." Xu Qi swung his arms in place and made an accelerated run, coquettishly rubbing against Fu Weiniang's side. "Friend." Fu Weiniang made a question mark in her heart. Why doesn't she know that Xu Qin still has friends? Since the day he was adopted back, Xu Qin has been not very lively. Except for Yan Chen and Xi, as well as Xiao from next door who occasionally said one or two words, she hardly interacted with anyone. Cici was innocent and naive from a young age, and had many friends. He didn't have as much heart and mind as Xu Qin, so he couldn't tell it was normal. Xu Qin probably didn't secretly fall in love at school, did he? Fu Weiniang buried this speculation in her heart and looked at Xu Qi, who was being coquettish, pretending to disdain it. "I left the house this morning, and it hasn't been 24 hours since I left. It's already a big girl, and she's still so clingy. Are you shy, Cici?" Xu Qi. No shame, no shame. No matter how old I am also my mother's precious daughter. I like to stick to my mother. Mom, don't bother Cici. Fu Weiniang and Meng Huijin were both amused by her. Xu Qi has been clinging tightly to her since childhood, and at first she thought that this child lacked a sense of security when they first arrived in an unfamiliar environment. After a while, I realized that this child simply likes her and wants to be close to her. Meng Yanchen is a boy, much like old Meng. He is young and mature, restrained in his manners, and shows more respect and estrangement towards her. Perhaps it is also because she has been managing the group for many years, and the image of a strong and aloof woman has deeply penetrated people's hearts, with her aura automatically blocking children. But Xu Qin is completely not afraid of her, like a little son constantly delivering warmth. Even Lao Meng said that her motherly character has become increasingly prominent in recent years. Fu Weiniang also felt that it was a blessing from heaven, and Cici was born to be a mother and daughter with her. She had just urged Meng Yanchen to pick up Xu Qin when the next second someone appeared at the entrance. As soon as Xu Qin approached the dining table, Fu Weiniang frowned. Xu Qin was startled for a moment. Wash your hands before eating, this is the first lesson of table manners required by Fu Weiniang. She was about to turn to the bathroom when Fu Weiniang spoke up. Qin, have you smoked? Xu Qin remembered that it might be the smell from the group of thugs just now and explained, Mom, no, it was second-hand smoke accidentally caught on the way. It's good if you don't smoke. Smoking is not a good thing, so don't smoke. Also, don't deal with people who are indecisive outside. With a gentle touch from Fu Weiniang, Xu Qin understood. It must have been Xu Qin who reported to her. Is she too idle? Is she going to slander someone if no one talks to her? Xu Qin had just finished washing his hands and came out. As he passed by, he met Xu Qin's melancholic gaze. Xu Qin had 3 question marks on his head. Is she okay? Who is this embarrassing to? After finishing his meal, Xu Qin took his backpack and went upstairs. Her room is opposite Meng Yanchen and next door is Xu Qin. At first, Meng Yanchen lived downstairs. Meng Huijin was afraid that Xu Qin and Xu Qin would be lonely and uncomfortable, so she let them live in the same room and accompany each other. But within a week, the two of them split up. The reason is that Xu Qin often cries, especially when he is alone with Xu Qin. The frequency of crying is even more terrifying. Cold violence and white-eyed wolves, who wouldn't go crazy? Meng Yanchen always coaxes people like a special forces training, running back and forth from upstairs to downstairs. This situation only came to an end after the reallocation of houses. Xu Qin flicked the turntable of the record player and hummed softly to Yan Chan's perfect voice. Before finishing a song, the door was opened. Xu Qin walked in with a broken face, shook the record player, and the music suddenly stopped. Words are spoken before eyes come. Are you too idle? If you have time to meddle in others' affairs, why don't you spend more time to improve your terrible achievements? Will slander me make you feel very successful? Xu Qin. Chapter 4. Interrogation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Having been thrown twice, Xu Qin's temper also rose. She also lowered her face and impatiently asked in response, how do I manage my grades? My parents and brother didn't say anything about me. What qualifications do you have to teach me how to do things? Also, what did I slander you for? The two of them may not have a close relationship on weekdays, but they still treat each other as if they were guests, and the well water does not cross the river. Xu Qin always greeted people with a smiling face and a warm and likable personality, so he suddenly turned pale. Xu Qin froze for a moment, and his heart began to loosen. Didn't you tell your mom that I'm in contact with people who are indecisive? Xu Qin said coldly, I'm not interested in your matter. Don't think the whole world is around you to improve. You really treat yourself like a princess. Xu Qin pressed his lips silently, without any hint of shame due to misunderstanding Xu Qin. If you have nothing to do, just go out. You're bothering me with my studies. Next time before entering my room, please knock on the door. Xu Qin pointed to the door and spoke coldly. It's best not to come in. Just as she finished speaking, there was a thumping sound outside the door. Upon receiving a response, Meng Yanchen quietly peeked out half of his head and coughed lightly. "Hello, dear little princess. May I ask if it's convenient for me to come in now?" Xu Qin sat up in unison, waved his hand, and mischievously replied in a pure broadcasting tone, "It's brother, come in quickly. Qin is also here, just in time, take the fruit to the room to eat." Meng Yanchen placed 2 stacks of fruit plates on the desk. "Brother, no need. I just had a full meal and can't eat now." Xu Qin looked at their intimate interaction, feeling uneasy in his heart. Xu Qin had already taken several bites, and upon hearing this, he picked up a piece of strawberry and delivered it to Meng Yanchen's mouth. He was so angry that he didn't give up his life and said, "It's so sweet. Brother, please try it. Not eating is perfect, it's all hers." Xu Qin glanced at her and walked away. "It's very sweet." Meng Yanchen opened his mouth and bit it, nodding and laughing. Xu Qin propped up his chin and looked at the fruit arranged in a fancy way. "Apple chunks, she doesn't like to eat, Xu Qin likes them, move them aside. Then there are orange pigs, mango fish, cherry hedgehogs, watermelon stars, cantaloupe bears, strawberry snowmen." She pretended to be conflicted and said, "Brother, every time you make them so cute, I can't bear to say it. But I never eat less every time," Meng Yanchen joked. "Brother. You hate it." Xu Qin, who was exposed for his foodie attributes, was furious and incompetent. "Are you unhappy? Did you argue with Qin again?" Meng Yanchen adjusted the turntable of the record player, slightly increased the volume, opened the chair, and sat down casually. Xu Qin chewed the mango carefully and observed, "Brother, did you hear it all?" "I heard a little bit." "Did something bad happen? Why talk to my sister like that?" Meng Yanchen's expression was gentle and his tone was calm. Seeing her playfully poking at fruits, Meng Yanchen withdrew the topic and said, "There may have been some misunderstanding. The family doesn't have overnight grudges, so if we talk about it, it's okay. If Cici encounters any unhappy things, he can tell his brother, and he promises to keep it a secret. If I argue with Xu Qin, who will you help?" Xu Qin took a bite of the watermelon and suddenly stared at him. Meng Yanchen. You shouldn't have asked her this question. Qin is cold-tempered, Xi is clever and cute, and it is normal for sisters to make small fights occasionally. His hasty persuasion can easily lead to bias. Meng Yanchen pushed his glasses and said, "Actually, I didn't hear anything just now." Xu Qin snorted without further questioning. His lack of a direct answer is actually the best answer, proving that he did not favor Xu Qin. Because Xu Qin deliberately attracted the attention of Meng Yanchen, he did not have a crush on Xu Qin as early as in the previous life. At least for now, Xu Qin has not noticed any signs of his heartbeat. As for the future, she will continue to be a qualified light bulb, emitting light and heat to protect her brother from being harmed by Xu Qin. As expected by Xu Qin, Song Yan and Xu Qin quickly fell in love. Xu Qin unleashes himself, including but not limited to smoking, drinking, going to bars, using foul language, and among them, the most direct victim is Xu Qin. I have to endure their greasy attacks from time to time. Sour and sweet, this taste is absolutely amazing. I'll give you my life if it doesn't taste good. Every time my desk mate asks, "Why does your sister want to date a thug?" Xu Qin's silence was deafening. "No, that's not a little thug, it's Xu Qin's fate." Although Xu Qin didn't say anything, Fu Weiniang still sensed Xu Qin's love. On that day, Xu Qin returned home on time and found that the atmosphere inside the house was not right as soon as he entered. Qin hasn't come back with you again?" Fu Weiniang asked in a deep voice. Xu Qin had a guess in his heart. She said to go to a friend's house to play and told me not to wait for her. Did she go to a friend's house or did she go to a romantic relationship? Cici, why did you lie for her and keep it from her parents? Fu Weiniang's phone made a muffled sound on the coffee table. Xu Qin pretended to be unaware and said, "Mom, I didn't know she was in a relationship. She kept saying that guy was her friend. And sister, she doesn't like me to meddle in her affairs." Meng Yanchen walked over and hugged Xu Qin's drooping shoulder as a sign of comfort. "Mom, this has nothing to do with Xu Qin has always had a strong personality and independent opinions. She is no longer a child, and what she wants to do cannot be changed in just 1 or 2 words by others. Cici really didn't do anything wrong, don't be too harsh on the child." Meng Huijin pulled Wen Ying's hand and gently shook her head. Fu Weining realized that she was too serious and scared Xu Qin. She took her anger down and said, "Xi, Mom is not blaming you, it's Mom's fault. It's your sister's fault, it's none of your business. I know that my mother cares about us, afraid that we will learn poorly. If we care, it will be chaotic. Don't worry, my mother. Cici only has learning in her heart. There are also rewards from her parents." Xu Qin chuckled and didn't care at all. Meng Yanchen rubbed her hair with satisfaction. During dinner, Xu Qin had not yet returned. Fu Weining's originally joyful mood due to Xu Qin has become heavy again. She kept flashing her breath screen, and the clock showed 11:07 when the door lock moved. Xu Qin looked at the brightly lit hall, and Fu Weining, sitting upright, was so nervous that her scalp tingled. She asked cautiously, "Dad, Mom, are you still up so late?" Fu Weining pressed down on Meng Huijin, but didn't bend around with Xu Qin. He opened the door and said to the mountain, "Did you fall in love with that little thug?" At 11:12, wandering outside with such a little thug at night, the rules at home. "Mom, Song Yan just has poor grades, he's not a little thug." Xu Qin cut off Fu Weining's questioning and urgently spoke up for Song Yan. "I understand very well that Song Yan has the lowest score and may not even be able to pass the college entrance exam. He spends his days at school smoking, drinking, fighting, and using foul language. What can a girl like you who comes home so late, uneducated, lacking in quality in education, have any future? Mixing up with such a thug will ruin your whole life." Chapter 5. Anger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "Mom, are you monitoring me? That's Song Yan's privacy. How could you investigate him without consent? Those are just hearsay, slander from others. This is very impolite. Very disrespectful." But Xu Qin dare not say these words. She was afraid of Fu Weining, but because she loved Song Yan, she couldn't bear to let her slander him. Loving someone gives birth to courage, going against fear to protect them. What kind of reputation is he? Everyone knows that he is just such an ignorant thug. There is no need for others to criticize him. Apart from his group of fox friends, who else can hear a good word from him? How many places have your grades dropped during this period? Fu Weining frowned deeply. He is not as bad as you said. After you get to know him, you will find that he is very, very good. He is also very good to me. Mom, how can you discriminate against him because of his poor family conditions? My declining grades are my own problem, not related to Song Yan. Xu Qin often absences in class, dozes off during class, and fails exams. Why don't you mention her? Xu Qin gave a disgruntled glance to Xu Qin, who was gloating on the side. A shred of silk. 3 black question marks above Xu Qin's head. Is it none of my business again? You make me sick. This move of bringing disaster to the east really caught Xu Qin off guard. Rather than reflecting on oneself, it's better to blame others, right? Xu Qin crossed his hands and countered, the fact that Song Yan is terrible won't change in the slightest because of my good or bad grades. Mom is also for your own good, and I'm afraid you'll be damaged by Song Yan. How could you argue against Mom for an outsider? Sister, you really disappoint me. Perhaps it was the undisguised disdain on her face that pricked Xu Qin's sensitive nerves. Xu Qin retorted, what's up to you? Mind yourself, how much better are you than others? Qin. How could you say that about younger sister? Meng Huijin was displeased. Don't compare Cici with Song Yan. Cici goes to and from school on time every day, does homework when she gets home, and reports to her family when she goes out to play. She never returns late, which worries us. I also tutor her in her studies, and she has made great progress. She is great and obedient. As a sister, you should be a role model, break up with Song Yan, and keep your mind on the right path. After Meng Yanchen finished speaking, he patted Xu Qi, who was feeling sad, and sent a comforting message, your sister has a little to do with it. We Cici are the best, don't be sad. Xu Qi worked hard for a long time, but his grades still couldn't compare to Xu Qin. He was already deeply resentful. Being publicly executed now, Meng Yanchen expected that she would definitely feel uncomfortable in her heart. And Xu Qi's sadness did not originate from Xu Qin, but from Fu Weiniang. She took a cup of warm water and handed it to Fu Weiniang's cold hand, with a worried expression on her face. Watching the family united front, Xu Qin felt a chill and suffocation. She just fell in love with an excellent and less obvious person, what's wrong with her? Xu Qinkue stood and listened to the training for a while, then returned to his room in disgust and dissatisfaction. Mom, don't be angry. Sister may have had a short circuit in her mind for a while, with clear advantages and disadvantages. She is a normal person who knows how to do it. Don't be angry or not, and there is also Cici. Cici is the wisdom crystallization of parents. Cici works hard and strives to enter the top 10 next time, no, the top 5. At that time, all parents envied and asked, whose daughter is this? She's so smart and excellent. Xu Qi crossed his waist and patted his chest, coaxing with an air, of course, I am the precious daughter of the beautiful Fu Weiniang and the handsome Meng Huijin. Tiger father has no sons, and behind every successful child, there are a pair of better and greater parents. Having lived for most of their lives, Fu Weiniang and Meng Huijin, who were suddenly called beautiful women and handsome men, completely broke through and laughed heartily, unable to take it seriously. Meng Yanchen couldn't help but laugh, and the indulgence in his eyes was so strong that it couldn't be dispelled. Why is his family Cici so cute? They knew that Xu Qi was comforting themselves, but the fact that Ci's tragic situation and her tutoring could make up for Meng Yanchen's doubts about life's mathematics, physics, and chemistry, and her chances of getting into the top 5, just like Meng Yanchen bringing a man home and saying, Mom and Dad, this is my boyfriend. But Fu Weiniang was still very pleased. Cici can do her best, whether she gets into the top 10 in the exam or not is always her parents' precious daughter. Meng Yanchen added. Wisdom crystal. Xu Qin leaned behind the door, listening to the laughter and joy downstairs, and kept rolling his eyes. While complaining about her cold heart, she was particularly concerned about Song Yan's kindness to her. Only with him can she unleash herself without restraint. You don't have to abide by the rules and be a soulless and obedient woman at the mercy of others. As long as you are yourself, you don't have to flatter and be accepted and liked. Every minute spent with Song Yan is filled with freedom and happiness. It feels like being spoiled by someone. Song Yan's WeChat popped up. Your mother didn't scold you, did she? It's still early at 11 o'clock, and your mother has so much nonsense to deal with. She's so strict. See you after school tomorrow. Don't tell that old lady Xu Qi, trouble. Do you want to come? Just give me a definite answer before I die. Xu Qin quickly clicked with his fingers. You didn't scold me, okay, see you tomorrow. Comes with a 3-ball, pinch your face. GIF, of course, the emoji was stolen by Xu Qi in the Listen to Mom group. After completing these tasks, Xu Qin did not exit the chat interface, but clicked on Song Yan's profile picture. A self-portrait of himself at a 45-degree angle. Warm sunshine, wild and unruly, just as brilliant and dazzling as his name. Xu Qin's hand lingered on his jawline like a knife for a few seconds, clicked save, and happily smiled while holding his phone. Chapter 6. Capturing Consorts. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xu Qin has been invited to become a parent. The reason was that her desk mate Xing Qian was looking for her in class, gossiping about the love story between a wealthy woman and a poor boy from Xu Qin and Song Yan. Because it was a note sent in encrypted text, after being caught, the Chinese teacher relied on his superb reading comprehension ability to decipher the conclusion that Xu Qin fell in love early and tried to conceal his parents from scattered conversations. Considering that adolescent girls have thin skin, the Chinese teacher only criticized a few words at the moment. After class interviews, Xu Qin repeatedly denied that he was misunderstood by the Chinese teacher as refusing to enter. Then, they were notified to invite their parents. Xu Qin took the phone handed over by the Chinese teacher and remembered the angry and haggard expression of his parents yesterday. He nervously entered Meng Yanchen's phone number. Until school was over, Xu Qin was always worried. She was afraid that Meng Yanchen would scold her. After all, in his previous life, he smashed Xu Qin's love affair in person and had a really bad temper. The look and aura in Xu Qin's eyes made him tremble with fear, and he didn't dare to show his grandeur. Confessing Xu Qin exposed his guilt of not reporting back, and there may also be suspicion of being a villain behind the scenes. Don't confess, brother won't easily let go of this topic, and he will suffer. Just as Xu Qin was struggling, Xu Qin stood up with his backpack in hand. My brother said he came to pick us up from school today, but the driver won't come, Xu Qin shouted to her. I walk, don't wait for me. Xu Qin walked out of the classroom without looking back. Xu Qin could also guess with his toes that she was going with Song Yan without much obstruction. Anyway, she brought her words along, so it's up to her to choose. How can she explain to Meng Yanchen now that she has more headache-inducing matters? When Xu Qin moved into the office with a worried expression on his face, Meng Yanchen was already sitting across from the teacher, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, with a straight figure and a cold and indifferent gaze under his gold-framed glasses, earnestly communicating with the Chinese teacher. His gaze occasionally swept over Xu Qin, who was squatting in the corner growing mushrooms. Xu Qin looked up and looked at him coldly, so shocked that he immediately withdrew his head. This little brat doesn't usually fear himself much, but now he's hiding. 10 minutes later. Meng Yanchen stood up and shook hands with the Chinese teacher to bid farewell. The misunderstanding was resolved, and Xu Qin received a few verbal education and a 2,000-word review as punishment for speaking small words. Meng Yanchen walked over and even took someone out with him. Brother, it's been so hard, so hard. You took some time out of your busy schedule to take care of small things like me. I was wrong. I will be careful when passing notes in class next time, so that the teacher won't catch me. Xu Qin took small steps to catch up with him, with an excellent attitude of admitting his mistake, and pounded his arm as he walked. Meng Yanchen's gaze swept over him, and Xu Qin immediately changed his tone. You're joking, there's no next time, no next time. Meng Yanchen looked at her sparkling eyes and felt a chill in his heart, but when he thought of the teacher's uneasy warning before leaving, his eyes darkened and he couldn't help but ask, Cici, did you really not secretly fall in love? How could that be? I'm not Xu Qin. Xu Qin hurriedly said. Afraid that he wouldn't believe it, he added decisively, what kind of love is it? Is it because there isn't enough homework or because the exam papers aren't difficult enough? There's only one thing in my heart, and that's learning. Learning makes me happy. Oh, this way, I'll practice 2 more sets of comprehensive theory papers that weekend. I'll supervise you, double the happiness. Meng Yanchen took off her backpack and carried it on one shoulder, nodding. Xu Qin. Do you have anything to do? She's just being polite, how could he take it seriously? Meng Yanchen couldn't bear to see her visibly wilting expression, so he rubbed her hair and said, don't be sad. What do you want to eat? Brother will take you there. By the way, what about Xu Qin? She didn't wait for you to leave. Passing by the classroom without seeing Xu Qin's figure, Meng Yanchen asked. Xu hesitated and said, well, she said she's walking. She should be almost home by now. Xu was not sure if Xu Qin would go home, so his tone was a bit vague when he said this. Meng Yanchen saw her hesitation and said, it seems like last night's words were spoken in plain language. You too. I just finished praising you yesterday, so I'll invite my parents today. None of these two things make me worry-free. Brother, can you please don't tell your parents about today? Mom will definitely criticize me if she knows. Can you bear to see your lovely, well-behaved, kind and lively sister being scolded? Xu stopped his expression and pitifully pulled his sleeve to act coquettishly. Meng Yanchen had no intention of filing a complaint at first. Seeing her soft and cute appearance, he decided to tease her and said seriously, let's see how you behave. Xu indeed enthusiastically wrapped himself around him, holding his arm and giving him a good brother one by one. The corners of Meng Yanchen's mouth raised slightly, which was not easily noticeable. You look at your backpack, wait for me. As he approached the staircase, Meng Yanchen placed his backpack on the wall and entered the bathroom at the corner of the staircase. Xu took his phone and the screen lit up. The lock screen was a girl wearing a white ballet dress, standing under the spotlight and dancing gracefully. The four corners of the stage were dim, and she was the only light source, shining brightly and dazzling. Isn't this oneself? This photo is pretty good. Xu often played with Meng Yanchen's phone and skillfully unlocked it. The wallpaper inside was Xu dozing off on the desk, with saliva slightly soaking the physics test paper on the table. Okay, Meng Yanchen, you secretly take an ugly photo of me. Set it as wallpaper. She opened the album and found that her daily life accounted for 2/3 of the few photos. Art photos, family photos, travel photos, and pictures posted on her social media. They are carefully classified and saved. Xu enlarged several photos taken at different angles. Ugly, I want to delete it, but I'm afraid. She was bored tinkering with her phone when suddenly she heard a sharp scream coming from the toilet. Still a female voice. Why do you sound so familiar to me? Xu instantly transformed into a frog in the melon field, and a sliding shovel slipped past, silently pressing against the wall, raising his ears to hear more clearly. Ah. Fuck. His mother, let me go. Brother, stop fighting. Song Yan's mouth is bleeding, brother. Xu rushed into the toilet at lightning speed, digging a canal. What a Xu Qin. And Song Yan. At the moment when his eyes met, Xu's cerebellum severely shrunk. It's going crazy. I saw my brother catching my sister's rape in the restroom, it exploded. Chapter 7. Injury. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. When Meng Yanchen first entered the door, he faintly heard the rustling sound of breathing. With the man's intuition, he immediately understood what sound it was. It seems necessary for him to exchange ideas with the principal on the construction of his academic style another day, otherwise how can he rest assured that Cici will study in such an environment? As for the toilet, they don't even have self-esteem and love for themselves, and he won't meddle in his own affairs. He just wants to solve it and leave. He had just fastened his belt when he heard a familiar moan, accompanied by the man panting heavily. Meng Yanchen's heart was uneasy, and he stopped in disbelief before turning back. After listening quietly for more than 10 seconds, his originally complete 3 views collapsed. Almost within 0.001 seconds of confirming the voice, Meng Yanchen's hands and feet moved faster than his mind, and anger, shock, and shame filled his heart. Meng Yanchen kicked the door open and swung his fist on Song Yan's face. The two of them were disheveled, their expressions flushed as they pressed against each other, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of Meng Yanchen. Xu Qin screamed out loud, shamefully grabbing his clothes and turning around to dodge. Meng Yanchen dragged the zippered Song Yan out of the compartment, closed the door casually, and kicked Song Yan to the ground. He walked up and picked up his collar with one hand, his fists falling heavier and heavier. Brother! Stop fighting! Stop it! Brother, Song Yan is bleeding! Stop fighting! Xu Qinfei quickly put on his clothes and ran out to fight, desperately grabbing Meng Yanchen's fist. Due to Xu Qin's disturbance, Song Yan was freed from the shackles of Meng Yanchen and took the opportunity to punch him. So as soon as Xu Qi came in, he saw Meng Yanchen and Song Yan fighting each other. Meng Yanchen had the upper hand. Xu Qin, with a disheveled and lifeless appearance beside him, was so anxious that he jumped up and down, his eyes turning red, and went to grab Meng Yanchen. Cici, it's not suitable for children to go out. Meng Yanchen was distracted and was ambushed by Song Yan again. Dare to hit my brother. You bastard, today is your deadline. Die for me. Ah, ah, ah. When Xu Qi saw Meng Yanchen hanging a ribbon, he became angry and rushed up to grab Song Yan's hair and tug of war downwards. He was pulling his eyes and ears, opening his mouth and biting into Song Yan's arm. Xu Qi, you're dead. Let go. Song Yan roared. Xu Qin became anxious and pulled at her. Xu Qi, what are you doing? Let go. 4 people fighting each other, passionately spraying each other, spitting out fragrance, and the essence of Chinese culture rippling. The scene was once very exciting. Finally, Meng Yanchen took action and brought back Xu Qi, who was in a state of madness. Xu Qin stood in front of Song Yan, preventing him from suffering any further losses. Cici, be good, don't take any action. Meng Yanchen hugged Xu Qi with a mournful expression and a heart-wrenching expression. Xu Qin, haven't you come out yet? This is the man you keep talking about being kind to. How? How dare you dare to be in such a place? He painfully closed his eyes and struggled to open them, looking at Song Yan with disgust. You guys are really good. Xu Qin, how old are you? You're so rotten, this is rape. Do you know that you're a lawbreaker? Brother. Stop talking. Song Yan didn't force me. This is my wish for him. Song Yan and I love each other and truly love each other. I want to be with him for a lifetime, not just for fun. Xu Qi was too lazy to talk about Xu Qin's love brain. Hurry up and stick backwards, don't be too humble. Xu Qin anxiously examined Song Yan's injuries, watching the bruises on his face and the bleeding bite marks on his arms. Tears of heartache fell from him. Forget Meng Yanchen, why did Xu Qi hit her with Song Yan? If she's unhappy, just come at herself. Don't go too far with her. Do you still have a sense of shame, Xu Qin? Do you think it's not embarrassing enough? Meng Yanchen washed his hands, wiped them clean, and forcefully dragged Xu Qin away. Meng Yanchen was very angry and checked to ensure that Xu Qi had not suffered any substantial harm. He didn't even treat his wounds, took his backpack, and drove straight back to Meng's house. Xu Qi sat in the passenger seat, anxiously observing Meng Yanchen. Brother is so excited, he must be very sad. Is he still secretly in love with Xu Qin like in the previous life, hurt by emotions? He has a broken corner of his mouth and swollen cheekbones, it must be very painful. Xu Qi looked at it with red eyes. Cici, did you scare you just now? I'm sorry, you should have waited for me. Meng Yanchen noticed her emotions and his expression softened, saying softly. Xu Qi felt heartbroken and said, I wasn't scared. I was angry. I was angry because I didn't bite that lunatic. Brother, does your wound hurt? You're not a dog. I'm fine, it doesn't hurt. Meng Yanchen smiled helplessly and said seriously, why don't you leave when my brother asks you out today? Next time you encounter such a situation, don't rush forward. It's very dangerous, do you know? Xu pursed his lips and said, how could there be a younger sister who watched her brother being bullied, not helping, and still running away? I'm not a white-eyed wolf. Xu Qin in the back seat rolled his eyes. If you are injured, I will be very sad, and my parents will also be very uncomfortable. Meng Yanchen opened the car door and helped Xu Qi's shoulder. So, Cici, promise your brother that no matter when, your first priority is to protect yourself, okay? Xu Qi nodded blankly. Xu Qin stood in front of the gate hesitating, just like when she first arrived at the Meng family, she was nervous and afraid, at a loss. But now, Meng Yanchen has not accompanied and comforted her. His attention was focused on Xu Qi alone, and he just said to her coldly, think about it yourself, how can you explain it to your parents? From childhood to adulthood, Meng Yanchen always had a better relationship with Xu Qi. He was meticulous in his speech and laughter, but he would joke with Xu Qi. Xu Qi could also act recklessly in front of him. Xu Qin stood behind them, and the sense of loneliness and frustration that had been excluded by them grew stronger. Chapter 8. Emotions. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Meng Yanchen bluntly stated the absurdity of catching traitors in the toilet, in a concise and calm tone. After speaking, he went upstairs, with a little tail at the back. Meng Yanchen closed the door and isolated the disputes downstairs. The matter has come to this point, and the damage has been caused. It cannot be relieved with just one or two words of comfort. Cutting through the chaos with a quick knife, parents are bound to force Xu Qin to make a decision. This storm arrived ahead of schedule due to the unexpected collision between Xu Qi and Meng Yanchen. No wonder in the previous life, my mother insisted on sending Xu Qin abroad, and she was really hopeless. Xu Qi shook his head, took the medicine box, and knocked on the door across from him. With the promise, Xu Qi drifted in with small steps. Meng Yanchen took off his coat and only wore a black shirt. He rolled up his sleeves and sat in front of the mirror, applying medicine. Seeing Xu Qi coming, he looked at her with a soft expression. Cough, brave knight, you seem to need help. You're injured, do you need me to treat you? Xu Qi said. It's a great honor, your Royal Highness Princess. Meng Yanchen cooperated. This is the secret code they agreed upon since childhood. When Xu Qi first arrived, he had to learn to do things that children should do every day in order to avoid revealing his secrets. Watching cartoons, doing handicrafts, doodling, listening to bedtime stories, playing house games. Xu Qi has never played at home because no one accompanies her. She doesn't like to play the role of her parents because before the age of 10, her biological mother died, and her biological father died even though he was alive. She likes to play the role of Royal Highness Princess and let Meng Yanchen play the role of knight. Meng Yanchen is not too naive. If Xu Qi wants, he can accompany her for a day. Later, when Xu Qi grew up, he didn't have to play around to maintain the innocence of the children, but Meng Yanchen still called her Little Princess and Royal Highness Princess from time to time. As long as one party mentions it, the other party will cooperate unconditionally, which is their exclusive tacit understanding. Xu Qi restrained his expression, carefully disinfected with iodine, and gently blew air while applying it. The body fragrance of the young girl lingers around her nose, her breath gently sprays on her face, her eyebrows furrow slightly, her pupils cut water, her skin white and creamy, her lips cherry red, and her collarbones the small face, which was as big as a palm, was serious and heartbroken. The gentle and light force that fell on it made Meng Yanchen's heart itch like a kitten playing coquettishly. He instinctively swallowed his saliva and tilted his head slightly back. What's wrong, brother? Did I hurt you? Xu Qi pouted, I'm sorry, I'll blow it on you, and it won't hurt anymore. Meng Yanchen stood up and didn't look at her. He tried to calm down and said, No, it doesn't hurt at all. Yes. I have a slight cramp in my leg, so I stood up and moved around. Brother, are your legs okay? You haven't finished taking the medicine yet. You're too tall. My hands are sore when I stand and take the medicine. Or do you stand and bend your waist down a bit? Xu, she said, holding a cotton swab. Meng Yanchen bent over for a while, feeling that this posture was a bit strange, as if the two were kissing passionately. He sat back down again, quietly waiting for Xu Shi to apply the medicine. After treating the wound on his face, Xu Shi reached out and naturally unbuttoned his shirt. Cece, don't act recklessly. Meng Yanchen fired his bullet as if he had been scalded. Xu Shi. What's this nonsense? You got kicked in the abdomen and need to be drugged. It turned out to be medication, it's because he's narrow-minded. Meng Yanchen understood and felt a faint sense of discrepancy in his heart. He quickly extinguished this absurd idea. I'll do it myself. Meng Yanchen slowly unbuttoned his buttons, revealing the tight muscles of his abdomen. His robust waist was faintly visible under the black shirt. Xu Shi's eyes lit up. Lie down, does my brother have abdominal muscles? Some people may appear as cultured scumbags on the surface, but behind the scenes they are muscular men. Brother, how hard it is for you to keep it from me. I really want to touch. No, apply medicine. Xu Shi dispelled the inappropriate thoughts of children. I can't let my brother find out that she's an old pervert. But after seeing the wound, Xu Shi's heart instantly turned cold like RT Mart's fish-killing knife, cursing and saying, this area is all bruised. Song Yan, this old Yin-By, is sick. Did he hit so hard? Brother, if you hadn't stopped me today, I would have beaten him into a disabled person. I forgot what I said again. Meng Yanchen looked at her disapprovingly, with a puzzled ending in his nose. I know, no matter when, the first thing to do is to protect yourself. Don't fight anyone casually, don't put yourself in danger. Brother, you're so talkative. Xu Shi pouted weakly. Meng Yanchen lightly tapped her forehead and said, it's good to know. It's best to always remember. Xu Shi muttered, at this point, we still need to talk big. It hurts so much, forget it. Meng Yanchen let out a sigh, not complaining even though he was stabbed, but still smiled gently. Xu Shi took a second dose of the potion and evenly spread it on the purple skin. After taking the medicine, the two of them blushed like boiled lobsters, their hearts beating like pampered birds, dancing happily. The neatly arranged medical boxes were haphazardly stored by two people, and they were quite busy, but they didn't know what they were busy with. Neither of them dared to look at each other's faces, allowing subtle emotions to wander freely between the two until they became the most unfamiliar acquaintances. Chapter 9. Going Abroad. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xu Qin went abroad the next day. After breaking up with Xu Qin, Song Yan was greatly affected and became even more irritable, causing trouble at school all day. Not long after, I transferred to another school because of a group fight. The group of people behind his back talked about him as a phoenix man who eats soft food and laughed at him for being a toad who wants to eat swan meat. However, his parents looked down on him and bought a plane ticket to send his daughter abroad overnight. Upon hearing this, Song Yan immediately led a group of thugs to their class and beat them up. One of them suffered a clavicle fracture and the other suffered minor eye injuries. Song Yan's uncle came to plead, but it was of no use. Song Yan was originally forced to squeeze in by relying on his sports skills. During his time at school, he had multiple gatherings and fights, and was also the main culprit. The plot was heinous, and the school insisted on dismissing this black sheep. Being demoted to nothing, his self-esteem was shattered, and Song Yan even got angry and caused a scene in the principal's office. Finally, his uncle nodded and bowed to the school leaders, compensating the injured student several thousand yuan before leading Song Yan away. When Xu Shi heard someone broadcast, his first reaction was that those people said it was quite fair. Correct and straightforward. Can we not break the defense if we are exposed? The onlookers see clearly, and that's the truth. Xu was in a good mood. When he got home, he immediately used it as a joke to roast to his parents, making them happy. Fu Weiniang originally planned to teach Song Yan a lesson, but he didn't expect to take action before he could. He killed himself first. Xu recently read Frederick Buckman's work and quoted one of his words to persuade him, "Mom, I recently read a good book, and there is a very good sentence called, 'Don't kick shit, you'll just make it everywhere.' If you speak rough but don't speak rough, people like Song Yan have no need for you to take action. Let him, avoid him, and ignore him. In a few years, if you look at him again, what achievements can you make? If you take action and he's not doing well, then you think we're causing him trouble, not because he doesn't have the ability. It's not that Xu is kind, but that she understands who Song Yan is." In his previous life, it was because Fu Weiniang forced Song Yan to drop out of school. He went to an ordinary high school, but failed the college entrance examination. He resented that Fu Weiniang ruined his bright future. Xu Qin also grasped this point, relying on Fu Weiniang's love, moral kidnapping, material demands, and even felt that this was a natural compensation. But in reality, Song Yan's score in the college entrance examination is only around 100 points, and even taking an associate degree is enough. Staying in the best school is of no use other than hindering others' learning and lowering the class average score. Unfortunately, people cannot do it, and we must blame the uneven road. Fu Weiniang felt that what Xu said made a lot of sense. She didn't need to take action, as they all went the same way. He bought the bill for his foolishness and overestimation. "Xiao Huabu, hurry up and eat. The dishes will all cool down later." Meng Yanchen listened to Xu witty words and laughed helplessly, then picked up the dishes for her. Xu took it with a smile. It seems that his brother's mood was not affected by Xu Qin's departure. In the previous life, Meng Yanchen's secret love for Xu Qin was discovered by Fu Weiniang, and Xu Qin was forced to change his name to Meng Qin. Now, Xu Qin has never changed his name before going abroad, and it is even more impossible to change his name in the future. Does this also indicate that her positive motivation has played a role, and Meng Yanchen at least doesn't like Xu Qin as much? Suddenly, two eye-catching bags were missing from her side, so her parents didn't have to worry every day. Her brother didn't fall in love, so Xu was very happy. Time flies. 10 years later, Xu Qin returned to his home country. She studied medicine, backed by the Meng family, and after returning to China, she went to the central hospital as an emergency department doctor. Even though she lacked experience and did not understand the world, she still managed to thrive. Xu chose journalism as his major, and after graduation, he spent several years floating in society, trying several professions, and ultimately chose to become a journalist for Yanqing Daily. Song Yan, like his previous life, still embarked on the career of a firefighter and became the stationmaster of Shilatai. Xu Qin and Song Yan had some private contact, and when it reached Fu Weiniang's ears, they arranged a blind date for her. Xu also knew some of their intricate plot. Xu appeared on the set and ran into him several times in the hospital. At that time, Xu Qin encountered some trouble. A middle-aged man was dissatisfied with her attitude towards seeking medical treatment and approached her to argue. Just happened to be saved by the hero Song Yan. Xu originally intended to create a collaborative material between firefighters and doctors, but he heard Song Yan scold the team members, "Did you just die?" The reason is that he did not help Xu Qin. Xu filmed the entire process, but normal people suddenly didn't react. Song Yan didn't listen to the explanation and cursed him for not saving his life. Did he want to watch the doctor get beaten? Xu was speechless and filmed this scene for free. After the filming ended, I ran into Xu Qin inviting Song Yan to have coffee. Another quote from Yuan. "There are too many people who want to treat me to coffee, you have to queue up and call you when the number is up." Xu Qin dislikes blind dates, but dare not disobey Fu Weiniang. He can only choose Cold War and live in the large flat floor that Meng Huijin bought for her near the hospital. He has only returned home a few times. Xu Qin finished his memory and took out his phone to send a message to Xu Qin, focusing on studying the building block components. Why did you suddenly like to play Lego? Meng Yanchen walked over with a bottle of mango yogurt, inserted a straw, and handed it over. My gaze fell on the two sets of building blocks on the table. The Black Panther and the Millennium Falcon. Isn't Xiao's birthday coming soon? I was thinking of giving him a handmade DIY, one made and the other made by himself. Brother, he actually said that the gift I gave last time was perfunctory. Strange. I need to put in a good effort this time. The price is not important, it mainly depends on my heart. I'm wrongly accused. The thing I gave last time was clearly very thoughtful and interesting, wasn't it, brother? Xu Qin said while sucking. Thinking of the half-armed Ultraman placed in the study, Meng Yanchen's silence was deafening. An interesting birthday gift, is it a customized golden Ultraman for him and Xiao each? His name is Dijia, while Xiao's name is Tyro. Xiao was already speechless at that time. Meng Yanchen still remembers that Xu Qin's original words against Xiao at the time were: an old man without taste or aesthetics, getting old, doesn't even believe in light. In order to prevent being scolded as an tasteless old man, Meng Yanchen said, yes, it's Xiao who has no taste and doesn't understand how to appreciate. Chapter 10. Borrowing Money. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text.